Hi guys, welcome to Signal Path. Today we are talking about the Bat Verb from Noise Engineering. The Bat Verb is a stereo reverb with shimmer, lower octave capabilities, some dirt that you can put on the reverb tail or your entire signal as a whole, some really cool dynamics and ducking options, diffusion, some deep editing, and a really kind of clever suite of options that I would say allow you to get to great sounds really quickly, at the same time give you all of the tweaking and functionality that you would hope for in a way that feels very performance oriented and very kind of like get you to the good stuff so that you can stop tweaking and start playing. If you know noise engineering, I would hazard a guess that you probably know them more for their Eurorack modules and designs kind of focused on the synth area. But the Bat Verb and their preceding release, the Dystopia, take the years of expertise that noise engineering has applied to the Eurorack scene and brought it into the pedal world. And I think that comes with a number of design decisions and approaches that feel refreshing. They feel needed for kind of, I think, breaking new ground. And there's a few things that we'll talk about in here that I'm very excited about. A couple of things to kind of keep an eye out for. One thing I would say is that the Bat Verb is, while it excels at kind of ambience and building kind of that big soundscape approach to ambient that we all know and love, there are edges of this pedal that take you into weird and experimental and kind of like odd territory. And one thing that I really love about this pedal in particular is that feels very curated. There are pedals that give you the extremes, and they give you the extremes because they don't have a perspective to exert on what controls they offer you and why. With the Bat Verb, it is all in the name of interesting sounds, and they've left like the tail on for these controls in a way that I think lets you sort of push things past the point of musicality into this no man's land of where am I, that suddenly when you reach the far extreme arrives back around to musicality in this kind of beguiling and kind of arcane way. And so we're going to jump into the sounds. I'm really excited to go over this today. But before we do that, it would mean a ton to me if you like this kind of content, if you would go ahead and like this video, which lets YouTube know to recommend this style of content in the future, and subscribe to the channel to follow along. But let's dive into it. All right, let's take a look at the Bat Verb. I'm playing my Balaguer Ambient Espada into the Euna and Cali 76 Stacked Edition. Going from that into the Quad Cortex, out to the Panther Preamps. Sounds like this. And here's the Bat Verb. We have time, which is our decay time, doom, which brings kind of a octave down sort of chorused sound that adds kind of some depth and complexity, shimmer, which brings in kind of a, bread and butter shimmer sound with an octave up above that, regeneration, which takes the output and kind of feeds that back into the quote-unquote tank, blend, which is going to be our mix control, and input, as well as 3 toggles for focus, grit, and duck, which we'll kind of cover in just a second. But let's kind of get comfortable with our standard reverb controls for a minute here and listen to the range of the time knob. So as you can hear, kind of short tile room and kind of chaotic crowded spaces. A little bit bigger, but still got kind of that fun kind of claustrophobia thing going on. As we start to roll this up, it starts to get kind of bigger and more ambient. You can also kind of start to hear it dance around the stereo field a little bit more with more time. Doom kind of adds this like lower octave piece that is, I would say, pretty subtle, but pretty interesting as well if we kill this all the way. Maxed out. Pretty cool. And then the shimmer adds an octave up on top of that. If we increase the region, that's really when the shimmer comes out to play the most. This allows you to create those big, epic kind of ambient spaces and not have it run away from you relative to your other playing. And lastly, of these kind of main controls, we have input. And input is something that lets you kind of correct for level and make sure that everything is even kind of between quieter or louder instruments. But it also plays an important focus when we start talking about the toggle. So let's go left to right with our focus, grit, and duck. Focus is going to be kind of 3 forms and lengths of diffusion. So if we bring this back to kind of a little bit more of a normal kind of reverb place and start on the left toggle. On the left toggle, it kind of behaves a little bit more like a delay. If we kill the doom and shimmer for just a minute and just focus on time, regen, and blend. With no regen, get like a couple of like quote unquote repeats. You can make time even shorter. What's fun is when you mess with time, you kind of get those cool wobbly pitch changes. Just a little bit. I think that's pretty special. The middle position starts to get a little bit more diffuse. So it starts to kind of spread around. You can hear that across the stereo field, but also just kind of like in terms of the scattering, it feels a little bit more reverb-like while still kind of keeping some of that delay-ish kind of feel. Finally, kind of the most diffuse on the third focus setting. Next up we have grit, which adds some clipping to either the verb or the entire signal. So this is clean. If we turn this to the center position, now you're hearing clipping on just the reverb path. texture to things, and then if we move the grip all the way over to the right, it's going to distort the entire signal. Kind of becomes really cool because if the blend's all the way down, now we can just use this as a distortion pedal. Finally, we have ducking, which has kind of basically two settings that follow the dynamics of what we're playing. Switch. So the duck switch basically allows us to either add reverb level when we play or take it away. So right now we're set to the right side, which is going to duck our reverb, which means when I play, it's going to get out of the way, and when I stop playing, it's going to kind of swell back in. This is really useful for when we have like a high regen reverb kind of sound. So let's try that out. Super cool for keeping things tidy. And on the left side of the toggle, it actually kind of follows our dynamics, sort of like a gated reverb where if we stop playing and it basically cuts out. We kill the regen. This could be really cool for when we add the grit in. If we bring the shimmer down a little bit and time down. cool to have a reverb that just dries up as soon as you stop playing. Really, really fun. And finally, the last thing to talk about is the hold button. So the hold button basically gives this kind of momentary sort of kill dry and infinite feedback. So whatever we put into it, it's really cool kind of for performance-y things. Like you can get some, I mean, cool ambient things out of it too, but I think it's like way more fun to go gritty and crazy and distort my way through it. But yeah, that's the duck and hold, and I think those kind of like, you know, interact in some interesting ways there. One thing that, you know, is worth kind of noting here is, as I'm sure you've noticed by this point, there are a series of secondary controls that are controlled by this little bat button at the top. And this bat button basically allows us to hold and turn to change a couple of things. If we hold the bat and change time, that'll change our MIDI channel. If we change input, it will change our output level as kind of a secondary control. And duck amount and expression select. So we can select kind of which effect is being controlled by an expression pedal if you are using that. But one of the most useful ones I've found is the low and high pass filters, which you can use to band pass your reverb to sort of create the sound that you're looking for. I like things a little bit more open when we're talking about kind of an experimental reverb like this, but the filter is actually quite powerful. So let's kind of shape it in a little bit here. Fully high passed. Nice, but a little ringy. Let's bring that down just a hair. And now let's low pass. Especially for like ringier settings, the filter can be really, really useful. But yeah, that is the Bat Verb. I think it's a really, really cool and fun experimentation tool, something that is definitely worth diving deep into. If you're looking for something that bridges between really kind of crazy and experimental approaches, and then also kind of has just some really great ambient reverb potential as well, I think this rides both lines really, really well, and in a way that feels like easy to navigate, easy to put together, and all kind of in one general, like one kind of mode. It's not hidden behind a lot of different algorithms or different settings that make you lose or add features depending on what setting you're on. It's all kind of here and in one package, and I think that's really, really cool, especially for ambient focused setups. But yeah, that's the Bat Verb. Let me know if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to see with this pedal specifically, and thank you for watching.